Thank you. Let's now take a few moments to recognize, with deep gratitude, 3 retiring faculty who have served Swarthmore with great skill and loyalty for many years. John Basio, Professor of Physics in the Department of Physics and Astronomy. Aurora Camacho de Schmidt, Professor of Spanish in the Department of Modern Languages and Literatures, and Carol Netter, Language Lecturer in French in the Department of Modern Languages and Literatures. We recognize as well the following retiring staff members who have served the college 20 years or longer. Joanne Barracliff, Financial Aid. Astrid Devaney, Development and Alumni Relations. Teresa Handley, Human Resources. Lee Robinson, Human Resources. Paula Rosen, Counseling and Psychological Services. Wayne Trent, Maintenance. Julia Welbon, Psychology, and Mert Westfall, Dean's Office. Our warmest thanks to all our retirees. As we all know, 4 years at Swarthmore is a journey that few, if any, can navigate successfully alone. So class of 2013, let's first give thanks to our faculty who taught you, who introduced you to new sources of information as well as mind-expanding ideas, and who in many instances became your friends and mentors. Thank you to your faculty. And to the staff who have served, each in his or her own way, by keeping this campus clean and beautiful, preparing and serving meals, supporting student initiatives, coaching our sports teams, sometimes offering a much-needed hug or a listening ear. Thank your wonderful staff. We remember also the friends who have accompanied you on this journey. You've all seen the Swarthmore t-shirt that reads, academics, friends, and sleep. Pick 2. Far more often than not, friends made the cut. Thank your friends. Finally, we want to give special thanks to the families of those graduating today. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, grandparents, aunts and uncles, extended and blended families of all shapes and sizes. This is your day too. You have sacrificed in many different ways in anticipation of this day, and you deserve to be proud, not just of those sitting up front, but of yourselves. Thank you. Graduates, may I invite you to please stand, turn, and thank your families. Thank you. Class of 2013, you are about to leave the Swarthmore bubble, while I, the faculty and staff, get to stay. 4 years ago, when you and I arrived and first heard others speak about the Swarthmore bubble, I imagine we may have envisioned it a little bit like a Walt Disney movie, where the bubble, enclosed, floats above all reality, a lovely little garden of smiling, happy young people, frolicking on Parish Beach, and then taking just brief breaks to drink deeply from the fountain of our faculty's wisdom. But over the last 4 years, we have learned quite a bit about the essence of the Swarthmore bubble, and now we are able to describe it a bit differently. Our bubble is more like an intense hothouse, where light, pruning, stress, occasional thunderstorms, and even very powerful winds, and lots of nutrients combine to make growth both possible and strong. Indeed, the Swarthmore bubble is the definition of intense. It is about strength, passion, and force. It's really not a protective bubble, but rather a bubble defined by rigor, creativity, and engagement. A hothouse bubble that's not always comfortable, but that really does prepare you for the world outside this lovely garden. Swarthmore alumni take enormous pride in the intensity of their time on campus. They describe the experience of preparing for honors, of being student athletes, of combining majors such as economics and art history, of the endless 24/7 conversations and the ongoing endless debates as the essence of the Swarthmore experience. What I have learned in traveling around the country and the world from our alumni in the last 4 years is that this experience is a type of mental, emotional, and physical training for the real world, a world in which living with freedom and responsibility is constantly on demand within their families, their communities, and their professions. The word intense comes from the Latin intensus, which means stretched tightly and strained. And though each class's sense of its bubble is distinct, I suspect your time here would be ranked as one of the most strained 4-year periods in Swarthmore's history. During that time, a great recession rocked the world, and at Swarthmore, our endowment plummeted more than $400 million. That's your first year. External forces such as earthquake in Haiti, Superstorm Sandy, and tragedies in Newtown, Boston, and more recently in Oklahoma have rocked us as well, and we have responded frequently with grief. We faced internal stresses, decisions about future directions in our strategic planning process. We experienced numerous changes in the dean's area, in the faculty, and on the staff. During your time with us in these last 4 years, and most intensely this last semester, students have lobbied hard for change on a variety of issues, including divestment from fossil fuel companies, racism, homophobia, classism, and our policies and practices related to sexual assault and harassment. As you leave today, you should know this drive for change, brought about by your incredible commitments and your good efforts, will continue as we build upon your work and will now work together as a community to improve the college. So yes, intense describes Swarthmore quite well, and most certainly your 4 years here. But I hope that as with our alumni, it is this very experience of intensity that you have learned to live freely and responsibly, both in your individual lives and in community. That's really the essence of Swarthmore. But how to describe this? How to talk in a way that we might remember about this intensity as really a training ground, an environment for learning about freedom and responsibility? How best to describe what Swarthmore gives as its very essence? So I think the best metaphor for how this works, you may have other ideas, but for me, the best metaphor for how this works, how this intensity teaches us freedom and responsibility, can be summarized in the seminar. I mean that in 2 ways. Literally, in terms of classes and laboratories where you mastered thinking critically, not alone, but in community. And I also mean it metaphorically, since this community really is 24/7 a seminar. It doesn't end at classroom doors. Now, we've all heard about the acronym MOOC, the term for free online classes now being offered by some universities and believed by some to be the final solution for all of education. A friend of mine, Dan Porterfield, president of Franklin and Marshall, recently declared 2013 as a year of the seminar, since the New York Times had declared 2012 the year of the MOOC. He suggests that 2013, the year of the seminar, ought to be a year that celebrates a phenomena that makes a real difference for students' growth. He notes that seminars develop, and I quote, higher order intellectual capacities that literally rewire the brain. The seminar is where we learn about freedom and responsibility. Years ago, I taught a course in American religious history at Emory. In this particular class, there were two men who really could not connect. Neither could listen to the other at all. There were subtle signs of tension, what we call microaggressions. One was a Vietnam vet, a much older student who'd returned to get his college degree at Emory. The other student, whom I will call Lee, came from mainland China. The vet, whom I'll call Joe, didn't like my syllabus at all. My syllabus included thinkers such as W.E.B. Du Bois, Zora Neale Hurston, Martin Luther King Jr., and Adrienne Rich. Not who he considered great thinkers of American religious history. Lee, on the other hand, liked my syllabus a great deal. He called it freedom thinkers, and he liked not only that it included the ones I have listed so far, but he liked that it included George Whitefield, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Thomas Jefferson, and Harry Emerson Fosdick. Now, these two men really didn't engage, and I found trying to start a good, rigorous debate, a free and open exchange of ideas with them in the class was challenging. And by that time, I taught a lot of seminars at Emory and University of Chicago. In a seminar, if you can't engage, if you can't say what you want honestly, if you can't hear honestly what the other person has to say, if you can't be open, no freedom, no responsibility, no discussion. A good seminar, like life itself, doesn't require everyone to like each other. It does require people to engage each other, to be open to each other, to what each other has to say. So one day, we turned to the essay, an essay which I almost hadn't even included. It's an essay by Du Bois. It's entitled Of the Passing of the Firstborn, and it's a beautiful essay where Du Bois describes the loss of his son. Turns out Joe had lost his son and Lee had lost a brother, and they began just a little bit to connect through this essay about a shared experience. Now, I don't want to say all was flowers and light or peaches and cream after that moment, but they did begin to listen to one another. They began to exchange ideas, and it shifted dramatically the dynamics of the class. Again, the class didn't end with everybody singing Kumbaya. Indeed, in a way, it created an environment in which real conflict, serious conflict, in terms of competing ideas and really getting into the issues could occur. Freedom and responsibility finally became possible in that class because people listened to each other. They opened themselves up to each other. They engaged with each other's humanness. In the Western Academy, we describe what we learn in seminars in terms of intellectual virtues or habits. I wonder sometimes if your generation finds this language too gentle, too passive, maybe too courteous. I think the phrases of habits and virtues that we've learned, love of truth, honesty, humility, courage, fairness, wisdom, may simply require in this day and age a greater heft than the term intellectual virtues. Professors Barry Schwartz and Ken Sharp have done a great deal of service to retrieve the language of virtues, and I just want to build upon their work to suggest that these virtues are really the muscles, the forces, the powers behind freedom and responsibility. The seminar experience as a preparation for life shapes our minds and our hearts to find enough courage to question ourselves as well as others, to have the strength to be really humble when assessing the correctness of our own opinions and ideas, and to learn to really listen to those with whom we disagree. A successful seminar should not give you the muscle to impose your idea of what the world should be like. Indeed, in a seminar, you should learn sometimes that you must have the guts to hold your tongue and listen, as well as the courage sometimes to speak. A good seminar creates in its participants the power to create, as the philosopher Hans Georg Gadamer would say, a new horizon, fused out of multiple views. So Swarthmore has long taken pride in being a place that fosters rigorous seminars in and outside of class. And that pride we take means simply and concretely this: the power to listen, the power to be heard, to critique, to create. Back in the early 1960s, some people weren't happy that a student group here at Swarthmore had invited Gus Hall, General Secretary of the US Communist Party, to campus to speak. I can only imagine the letters he got from alumni. In backing these students, Swarthmore President Courtney Smith proclaimed, "If America is scared even to listen to competing ideas, we are finished." The strongest force, the ability to listen and to create a new synthesis out of competing ideas, is the heart and soul of democracy. It is the greatest strength you have attained here. Here is how President Woodrow Wilson described the strength you came here to develop in an address he gave at Swarthmore 100 years ago. "You are not here merely to prepare to make a living. You are here in order to enable the world to live more amply, with greater vision, with a finer spirit of hope and achievement. You are here to enrich the world. And you impoverish yourself if you forget that errand." Congratulations, class of 2013, and thank you for sharing these 4 years with me and with all of us. Congratulations.